Hello there! Does the single light add more drama to the video? You know, they turned one set of lights off over there. I confirmed this today with the butcher. I went to Sam's Club, which has the cheapest price on filet mignons. Like every 2 weeks or so, I'll like try to treat myself and get a package of filet mignons because they're the cheapest there. Yeah, I know about buying a side of beef and, all this other stuff. And I know cattle farmers, too. The unfortunate thing is, regarding a cow, only about 5% of it is, the really good cuts of beef. I was like, oh my God, this is so much more expensive. And I figured about 20% increase. And I talked to the butcher. He's like, yeah, about 2 weeks ago, we raised the price on the prime cuts and lamb, which of course I don't eat lamb, by 20%. The whole thing is becoming true. Remember, been talking about it for years, how these muckety-mucks, they don't want people eating beef anymore. They want to turn everybody into like a passive soy boy that's eating rabbit food. Yeah. Worst comes to worst, I actually have really good grazing land. However, it takes a lot of effort to take care of cows. Last night on live stream, someone was talking about what I've been calling the stab juice for years. And he's got his own name for it, and I laughed immensely. He calls it the dirt nap magic sauce. I couldn't help it. It's pretty funny. The dirt nap magic sauce. That's pretty funny. Some of you don't have a sense of humor. I kind of noticed that. Some of you, not many of you, but some of you don't. This ties into the prior video on beliefs, by the way, and this is about being unhinged. And this is not at all, this kind of springboards from that, but this is not at all about the event that happened a few days ago. But what it's about is when an event happens, you kind of see how people react. It's kind of like someone is really calm until like an emergency hits, and then you can see who is rational and keeps a cool head. It's kind of like a proving ground. There's a movie where these British nerds buy this sword that's hanging on it's like at a comic book store or something. It looks really nice, like a few $100s, and it's not ever meant to be used. It's something you hang on the wall, and then they end up using it, and of course it breaks and falls apart because it's a cheap piece of junk. And this is called testing the metal. Not that I was ever a really big fan of the show, but they had the show where these bladesmiths would show up and they'd make blades and then they'd test them. And you could see who might look pretty, but if you put it to the test, you can see if it's a piece of junk or not. People are the same way as steel like that. Has it been tempered properly? Has it been built properly? Et cetera, et cetera. So this is not about that event. By the way, the government, they had the protest in the UK, and they were claiming a few days ago that the protesters did things to the local, the Muppets. I'm going to call them Muppets because that's what the British people called them. They're talking about the Leos, the LEOs. And the UK government posted a video from several years ago, and people actually had AI find out. It's like, yeah, this wasn't from a few days ago. This was from a few years ago. Also, too, the BBC claimed that the people protesting for freedom were right-wingers. And also, too, the UK government claimed there's only like 100,000 protesters, but really there were minimum of millions of protesters. I kind of find it funny that apparently the British government thinks that people that march for freedom of speech and expression are considered right-wingers. We've reached the Looney Tunes era, where when you want freedom of speech and the right to be able to pay the bills and have a roof over your head and be able to afford food is considered right wing. It's kind of interesting. What the media is doing, and social media is this way as well, the algorithms. Like, have you ever swiped through Insta? Insta actually knows what you pause on and what you click the heart button on. Like if you pause on it for more than a few seconds instead of swipe, 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 it'll keep feeding you that, and it actually reinforces something that's been psychologically verified many decades ago. What they're doing is they're not portraying, the people across your street who are your neighbors, but rather as enemies and that which should be destroyed. We have to ask ourselves, in being rational and logical, why is it that cities, there's some super rare exceptions out in the country, but it is really rare. I can confirm this. You can as well. Some people only live in the city. You know why cities are such breeding grounds for absolute rabid insanity? Why are country folk so relatively calm? However, of course, media will portray them as unhinged, but they just want to be left alone. They love their land almost like they love their own children. And as a landowner, of course, I don't have children, I can confirm that. Be left alone, work really hard. This is my land. I take care of it. I look after it. And, why are these folks calm and why are the city folk so nuts? Is it Wi-Fi? Is it frequency overload, which is actually a real thing? Is it the water? Unfortunately, Western society has de-evolved intellectually, but it is also too de-evolved into 10-second sound bites that are based on an algorithm that feeds you that which you were looking for to reinforce your your little tribe mentality, and that's extremely unfortunate. I went to college for years as well, and many of you have as well, but the people that are so unhinged have gone to college and they've had their silly belief systems reinforced. Perfect example, there's a very famous author that's written a lot of books, very famous, an older guy. He's kind of a perfect example. He posted a total lie about the person that, the incident happened to a few days ago. And it was a total lie, and everybody went after him, and he retracted it, and he apologized. But all he does is he's isolated, and he's in a nutshell sniffing his own flatulence. He's basically an old keyboard warrior, but he's suffering the same thing a lot of these college kids and others are suffering, is that you are being fed algorithms that are reinforcing your little nutshell belief systems. And, dumb people hate facts. What they do love is outrage. And that's something you really should remember. Unintelligent or dumb people, specifically actually unwise people, they don't like facts. They hate facts. What they do love is outrage. It actually feeds a dopamine level and some other needs that are innate to human psyche. And I don't care about psychology. Don't care about it at all, but this is a proven fact. HGTV, and this is just two examples of thousands. By the way, Elon Musk fired 2,000 workers at X because they were posting egregious things about the incident that happened a few days ago. So Elon Musk just fired 2,000 people at X. I only thought there was like 2,000 people in total working for X, but what do I know? HGTV, like a home renovation star, it's a female person, was sending well wishes to the family of the guy from the incident from a few days ago. Just mercilessly went after her. All she did was send well wishes and, sorry, this is a terrible thing. People are celebrating. What's happening is that people are letting the mask slip down, and people are seeing how truly evil, The people across the street sometimes almost literally actually are. What this incident did is something I knew innately is the case. Nothing about this shocked me even a little bit. Not even that much. People that are so clueless, it just literally shocked the heck out of them. Because they had no idea people were this unhinged. So yeah, this HGTV star, and there are many, many others. All they did was say, this is a terrible thing. If you wish, if you're celebrating somebody, it doesn't matter what your position is. You're on the left or the right. You're celebrating, an innocent person by every definition, demonstrably an innocent person. You're celebrating what happened, then, the mask is slipped down and you're demonstrably evil. You've been brainwashed to the point of lunacy. And this is a known fact, but it's for countless decades. But people are kind of numb to it. They didn't know. I mean, it takes incidents like this to people to wake up. It's like, wow, I had no idea. People were so evil. There was a guy on the show, and I think his name is Poole. He wears like this little fuzzy beanie. And he said people that have been his friends for years that are on the other side of the aisle, they said such hateful, egregious stuff that, it just shocked the heck out of them. I mean, that doesn't shock me at all. This is exactly what I knew about people. What's missing for the unhinged are about 5 or 6 different principles. One of them is eudaimonia, which I'll get to here in a second. But accountability. That is a word that just makes people hiss like a pit viper. It's like, everybody has to have accountability, but almost nobody has it. Rationality. It doesn't matter what your positions or beliefs are. You have to be rational. So accountability is missing, rationality is missing, introspection, i.e. self-reflexivity, is completely missing from these people. A truth comparator, too. People that claim, well, I have a college degree. It's like, yeah, but you're totally unhinged. You're radical. There's no truth comparator within you. The very base thing of a true education, of course, today's education is the opposite of an education. It's indoctrination and brainwashing and a whole list and laundry list of horrible things, is that these people don't even have a truth comparator within their mind to say, I don't agree with this, but this is what this person's saying true. I'm going to have to check it with the facts, and what I know to be true is a well-educated person. I don't like it and I don't like hearing it, but is it true? They don't even get that far within their own mind. Constructive criticism, or whether it be towards your neighbor or whether it be towards yourself, they're not constructive, they're destructive. It's a demonstrable fact that it is a million times easier to destroy something than it is to be constructive of something. The hypocrisy, too. They are always claiming that you are the very thing that they themselves are guilty of. They're engaging in projection, which is very infantile, very juvenile. What's missing from these people fundamentally is eudaimonia, and is usually translated as happy, healthy, and prosperous, which is superficially true, but eu and daimon, or guiding spirit, what it actually means, kind of like translating logos, which is really untranslatable, is that these people are cut off from the good guiding spirit, and it's not literally, an angel or something like that, or a guiding spirit, but from natural order to common sense and rationality that lets you flow easily through life so that you are happy and healthy and prosperous. Everything is about, mental health, physical health, but also, too, health of wisdom, or lack thereof, which is completely unhealthy. The eudaimonia, and this is from the Apology 29e, where Socrates says, "Good sir, you are an Athenian, a citizen of the greatest city, the ancient city of wisdom and rationality. The city where philosophy was king, philosophia, which means the love of wisdom. You are an Athenian, a citizen of the greatest city, or the greatest reputation for both wisdom and power. And you are not ashamed of your eagerness to possess as much wealth, as much reputation and honors as possible, while you do not care nor give a thought to wisdom or truth or the best possible state for your soul. He's pointing out that these people are basically base materialists. They're looking for power, wealth, and reputation, acclaim, but they have no regard for wisdom, no regard for truth, which is necessary. You don't have to believe in any sort of silly religion to be well established in eudaimonia. That's something you need to look into, is eudaimonia. These people that are so unhinged, they have almost no, some of them have less than zero eudaimonia in their existence, and that is the number one thing that is missing from them. What they'll do is that they'll claim, which is, everybody's seen a million videos like this, and they're so hypocritical, is that they'll claim that words are an attack, and then they work themselves into a lather while you're sitting there, you know, looking at them like with stupor, like, my God, this person's crazy. And then while they're claiming that your words are an attack, they proceed to engage in an actual attack. It's not funny. I mean, that level of complete lack of self-awareness, of introspection, complete and total lack of rationality, lack of accountability. We can't blame all this on bad parenting, okay? Because there's bad parents everywhere. We have to ask ourselves, what are the key factors that are causing this? That it's about 98% city folk that suffer this. They have no eudaimonia, no accountability, no rationality, no introspection. They have no truth comparator within them. You know, a rational, sensible kid that, like, dropped out of elementary school has a way, way, way better truth comparator than somebody that has a postgraduate degree that spent countless years in Princeton or Harvard. And that's not an exaggeration, that's a fact. So you take a country bumpkin that can barely read or write and he dropped out of elementary school. That person has a better truth comparator established within them than somebody that lives in the city with a postgraduate degree. I've seen countless examples of that. It's like, you're really out of touch. These people, unfortunately, you know, they act like as if that they were animals. And it's not left versus right. It's sane versus insane. It literally is. It's not left versus right. It's sane versus insane. Media, unfortunately, whose job it is to tell the truth, but they don't. They care about clicks and likes. They're heralding professional lunacy. Let me repeat that. Media, which is supposed to be about presenting facts and news and truth, they, you know, if it, what's the old saying that says if it bleeds, it leads in the headlines, is that they're headlining professional lunacy. Unfortunately, what this is in social media is a tribalism. It's an us versus them mentality, and this is what government and corporations really want, and this is the source of the problem. It's not you versus your neighbor. It's just not. There's a fly in here, I know. On the 3 or 4 point playbook to radicalize and subvert people, and because they need you divided and full of rage. Yeah, it's just, that's the way it has to be. Because if you're unified, you and your neighbor are unified, they got a problem. And also, too, they make a bunch of money. Not only are they happy with you divided, they make a whole lot of money off of it when you are divided. And isolation. This is also, too, step 1 of a cult. Number 2, echo chamber. You know, living in nutshells, sniffing your own exhaust fumes, surrounding yourself with other people that believe in your same lunacy. This is also step 2 of a cult. And the algorithms reinforce this. It knows what you watch and pause, and it reinforces that, and it makes money off of that, and it seeks to divide. It seeks to polarize. Polarization between you and your neighbor is exactly what they want, and the big bonus is they make a ton of money off of it. Step 3 is a tribal script, this us versus them mentality. You know, they magnify your righteousness, and they make out that you're the righteous one and your neighbor is the evil one. So it's outrage and righteous superiority. And this gets reinforced, and it has a really horrible psychological effect, and it causes the super divisive polarization. When debate ends, and this isn't my opinion, it's a fact, when debate ends and discussion ends, society goes into a death spiral. And none of what's happened recently, like there's thousands and thousands and thousands of people getting fired across the globe, really, over this incident. And you know, nothing about this incident surprises me, and nothing about what's going on surprises me. But a lot of people are being surprised. They can see, because the mask is dropped down, and they can see how evil, you know, Joe Blow down the street is. You know, there's a reason why Elon Musk just fired, whatever you think about him, I could care less, just fired 2,000 people from X. 2,000. A bunch of teachers have been canned. A bunch of people. None of that surprises me, including the fact that people that are, you know, sending well wishes and whatnot, you know, like famous people, whatever that is, you're saying, oh, this is a terrible thing that happened, and, you know, I wish his wife and the kids well, this is terrible, you know, he's, somebody was, you know, removed from this world for, you know, their, you know, belief systems, etc., etc. And they themselves, for sending well wishes over something heinous, you know, there's an avalanche of people going after them. And none of that surprises me either. So, but society does go into a death spiral when debate ends, and you're seeing, you know, it seems to be an unstoppable avalanche of it happening right now. The unfortunate thing is that these people that are so polarized and divisive, they don't, you know, despise you because you're wrong. Rather, they feel so strongly because you're usually right. The righter you are, writer, I know writer is not really a word. The more correct you are, excuse me, I'll edit that out of this video, the more they can't stand you. The more, you know, they foam at the mouth. And we can see that now. None of this surprises me either. I've said a million times society is the thinnest crust over top of the world's largest volcano. And that's exactly what society is. You know, there'll be a big volcano here, and this is society. It's just like this top, you know, scratch it right off. There we go. I removed society. It's just unfortunately true. These entities that are actually fomenting this division, they profit from it. If you're divided, then you're not against them, which you should be, because, man, they cannot stand unification. Social media, unfortunately, is feeding you a diet of enemies, the idea that everybody's your enemy instead of your neighbors. And that's not to say there isn't true evil out there, people that are just absolutely, everything they think, feel, and believe, even before social media existed, it was just totally heinous. You know, obviously I'm not saying, you know, it's all social media's fault, but I mean, there's a huge portion of it that is the fault of social media, and that's undeniable. It was never left versus right, rather the people versus the powerful, and also, too, of course, evil corporations and government. What we actually have right now is not capitalism in the United States. We actually have corporatism. And a lot of people confuse capitalism with corporatism. I've seen socialism up close and personal. You know, I absolutely despise it because it's heinous and it came out of the rotten mind of Marx. And I know the whole history of Marx, and, you know, he smelled bad, he hated poor people. He's a horrible, horrible, horrible person. I think it was Winston Churchill who said, capitalism is the worst form of government, except for every other form of government. Yeah, but a lot of people, except for me, are shocked about what's happening recently. Not about the event itself, but the aftermath that actually shocked everybody. Like, oh my God, these people are so evil. Look, I had no idea we're surrounded. by so much evil because the mask is dropped. And then, the unhinged people who have no accountability, no rationality, no introspection, no internal truth comparator. And especially, you need to look into what eudaimonia is. They have zero eudaimonia. They're materialists, they're nihilists, they're anti-constructional. They don't do anything constructive. It is completely lacking from them. They feel better by digging holes out. If someone wants to elevate themselves, great. But some people, they find the shortcut to elevate themselves, and it's not elevation at all. They're staying the same place they always were, is that they dig holes out from underneath everybody else. Look, I used to be the same place you were, but now I'm higher. It's like, you're not any higher than you ever were. All you did is you just, you laid waste to everything around you, and you dug holes out underneath the feet of everybody else, and that, relatively made you higher. And this is not constructive at all. It's okay to criticize, but if you're criticizing towards a point of construct, like, what you're doing is wrong, and this is why it's wrong, but I'm not doing it because I'm upset at you. I'm doing it because if you did it this way, or if you understood this better, it would help you. It would help you. It would give you benefits in life. It would give you eudaimonia, which is a type of wisdom bliss. It is not like good guiding spirit. It is usually translated as. It is the bliss of true understanding. You've ever seen somebody, like an old dude, he might be wrinkled and sunburned and whatnot, but he's sitting in the back of the restaurant or something, and he doesn't have any money, and his wife is probably, passed on years ago, but he's got that look of like, yeah, I understand what's going on. He's just at peace. He understands what is and what isn't, and he knows what's going on and what ain't going on. He's just got that wise, peaceful, kind of like the coolest guy in the room, except it's based in wisdom rather than, like being rich or super beautiful. It's a different type of peace. It's like, guy's not beautiful, he's not rich, he doesn't really have anything except a beat-up pickup truck and maybe a ratty old dog. But he's seen it all, and, he's at peace. That's kind of a poor person's analogy of eudaimonia. And these people, because they have no accountability, no rationality, no introspection, likewise, the fruit of that is a complete and total lack of eudaimonia. But we also, too, have to answer the question is, why is 95, 98% of this type of unhinged lunacy in cities? I can go down a long laundry list. There's about 5 or 6 primary ones. And so why is it basically only in cities? You got rich, beautiful people in the city that are miserable and angry. You can go out to the countryside, and it's not because they're dumb. People with no money, no nothing. They love nature. They're happy. They have eudaimonia. We have to answer that question. I read every comment, so you let me know what you think that is and why 95, 98% of it is concentrated in the cities, because it is. Thanks so much for watching. Don't be unhinged. Have a little bit of introspection and rationality, for goodness sake. Don't be like the other people in the city. Please. Please don't.